Hi, I am Christina Ree, and welcome to This Is How We Live Well, real stories that transform the way that we thrive. Today, I am joined by Char, founder of Haus of Transformation, and an all-around beautiful and wise spirit. Char, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of
Lovely
course.
introduction.
Yes. um, when I first found your work, I was struck by how clear it was. There was so much clarity in your work and your eagerness to show the masses really that healing and transformation is tangible for them. And so I'm curious about your own starting point. When did you start showing up as your true self in this world?
I think that question is so loaded because it's layered. I would love to say that it started when I was 21 years old. I had a very wise friend. He and I had such a close relationship, and one day he was like, "Who are you?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Who am I?" I was like, "I'm Charmaine." He's like, "So if my name is Charmaine, then am I you?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm Charmaine." And I started saying my whole name, my whole government. He's like, "Okay, so if that's my name, does that make me you?" And I started getting so frustrated because he had me. I was, and that question just sent me down a rabbit hole. I mean, I had a whole spiritual awakening from that point. And that was the beginning of prioritizing, understanding who am I? What am I? What am I doing? How do I show up? What am I aligned with? And I think since then, now I'm 37. So from 21 to 37 years old, it has been just these different periods of my life of always attempting to show up as well as I knew myself to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that I have finally entered a stage in my life where now I don't even feel compelled to even answer the question because my thing is like, you may not even be ready for that answer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not, I don't even feel like dealing with it. But the great news is I am very clear on who I am. And the more clear I became, the more it was so important to me to make sure that I was showing up and aligning with that as consciously as I could and can.
Who did you have to become to be who you are now?
Who did I have to become? I just had to remember. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
it's a becoming just as much as it is a remembering. So it's not that I became someone new. I just remembered who I've always been, who I was before I was told who I was and given an identity and told that I am this, I am that. So it was more so removing, and it still is a process of removing and being able to discern what is actually me, what is actually mine, and what is and is this someone else's? What is someone else's? And so there's a coach on that I became familiar with on Instagram. Her name is Coach Val. And she said, you have to have 5 non-negotiables. And so I took hers because I love them. And she said every day her non-negotiables are I am worthy, I am loved, I am ready, I am safe, and I am powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, yes. And with that, that is like my starting point for every day. No matter what I'm going through, does it align with these 5 truths? Because these truths are non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is who I've always been. It's remembering that I was created, literally created, worthy, loved, ready, safe, and powerful. So if it doesn't line up with those things, then it just cannot be true. And then that is the work for me to do.
And that's so interesting. I really love what you said about being a process of becoming because that's so true. We are already brilliant, and it takes the healing work and the transformative work and the shadow work to uncover who we already are. We're not becoming somebody else. It's just a higher version of ourselves. And so we're coming back home. And that's so beautiful. And it's a beautiful way to honor yourself and a beautiful way to honor who God has created you to be. I also really like what you said, your 5 non-negotiables. And so I kind of want to move into that just a little bit. So let's bring it down to a daily practice. How did you live well today? So you have your five non-negotiables. Are you saying them in an affirmation? Are you writing them down multiple times? Are you writing them in a petition? How are you living well today, and how do you bring in those five non-negotiables?
So journaling is a big part of my day-to-day life. Some days I might skip journaling just because of life, but for the most part, I begin my journaling practice with a gratitude list, and I like to have five things that I'm grateful for, but it ends up always being a list of six because my last thank you is thank you for creating me worthy,
Mm-hmm.
loved, safe, ready, powerful. And then I've added on to that. So every day, every time I sit down to write, or almost every day, I am writing thank you for creating me this way.
And we talked a little bit offline about you always trying to go back to God or go back to spirit as often as you can. Is that in meditation? Is that in stillness? Is that in nature?
Here's the thing, there is no separation. There is no,
Mm,
I'm never, ever, 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 ever separated from spirit. Spirit is lives within me. So it's I am spirit. Spirit is me. So that connection is always there. However, what I have come to understand is setting aside these moments, whether it be because
hmm
there's various ways that I do it. It changes every day. Journaling is probably my most consistent, but sometimes it is meditating just to get back to that place of intimacy where it's just me as my identity as Charmaine, as Char, and then there is what I know as spirit. So there's building that intimate connection where there's nothing but me and spirit in meditation, or it's my gratitude list, or it's journaling, or it's in my affirmations, or it's in my breath work, whatever it, or it's
hmm
in my walk that I do. So it shows up in various ways, and I've come to understand that those are the things that I do to just consciously build intimacy with my relationship with spirit.
How does that carry into House of Transformation? How do you see your power here and who you've become now as a grounding force for you to help other people through your business?
Well, because I have come to understand that I like to say I'm pre-qualified. I've been
Hmm
pre-validated because I have taken the journey and I'm still on the journey because we never arrive. We're always learning different aspects of ourselves and uncovering different faces of spirit every day in multiple ways. However, I have built the foundation on
hmm
which no matter what I'm going through, no matter how dark of a time, I can always come back to this foundation to remember who I am and get the sustenance that I need. So I
hmm
understand the process of learning how to help oneself.
hmm hmm
That is ultimately a process of transformation, and that's what I'm helping guide other people through.
And it takes work, and it's work that you can do. As someone who has gone to a major turning point in their healing, you realize that while it can be so difficult, you can do it. It can be done. You have to put your mind, body, and spirit into it. I like to say that releasing is a practice. You are practicing who you are becoming. And a situation may come up that triggers you. You can always come back. You may not get it right the first time, the second time, or the third time, but you will. And then on the other side of that, you are someone so rooted in your self belief, so grounded in your values that really nothing can shake you. And I feel like that's how healers are born and made. Now that you've stepped into your power, what are some principles or mindsets that allow you to stay true to who you are now?
One of them, I would say, simply put, my understanding of who I am is I am whose I am. That's what I say. I am
Mm,
whose I am. And that is a grounding statement whenever I get confused, whenever I forget, whenever I need a reminder of who I am. That's also become a non negotiable. I am whose I am. So
mm,
whenever imposter syndrome comes up or doubt comes up, or like you said, you know, Does God really want me to be creative? Does God really want me to be worthy? I am whose I am. And whose
Mhm.
I am is creative. Whose I
Mhm.
am is worthy,
Mhm.
more than worthy. Whose I am. So that is a founding principle that I always come back to no matter what I'm going through. Another one is to never take anything personal.
Mhm.
That can be triggering for some people, and I understand why. Because
How do you
sometimes,
do that?
well, because sometimes people do mean things personally, but as far as I'm concerned, whether they intended for it to be personal or not, it's not mine. It's not mine to
Mhm.
take on. You do that by not internalizing. You do that by understanding that most people, all of us, are walking before you can before you've gathered the tools to understand and really self-reflect so you can limit how much of yourself you're projecting on other people. Most of us are walking around projecting on others, and so when you build that relationship and that connection with yourself to where you are so rooted in who you are, it becomes much easier to spot what is yours and what is someone else's to carry. So whether someone wished me harm or ill will, that's not for me to take on. That's their problem. That's their work. I had a friend growing up when I was younger, and he would always be counseling me, whatever drama I was going through. He'd be like, "Girl, you the only one mad. You the only one mad."
Right.
But one day that finally sunk in. I'm the only one walking around carrying this feeling. Now my day is all messed up. I'm
Mhm.
the only one feeling this. They don't care, you know? And so it's a way of maintaining and remaining rooted in my power. And then it's also understanding, and I think it's something that I had to own and embrace that I am particularly good at, is really taking a step back, zooming out, evaluating whatever is going on in my life, and understanding that my life is always reflecting me back to me. And so, as Rihanna's tattoo says, never a failure, always a lesson. So
Mhm.
it's never a failure. There's just always something that, if I allow it, can help propel me to where I am meant to go next. It's only up. It's only up.
And it's all an experience. That's so beautiful that you said that. It's all an experience for you. And the suffering comes when we try to reject that experience or not allow it to teach us what we need to know, or like you said, take it personally.
We
Um,
try to externalize it a lot of the time. That's what happens. We make it about other people. We make it about what happened versus what is for us.
right. Or it can be that, "Ugh, why does God hate me? Why is the universe turning against me?" Instead of what is the universe trying to show me? And what the universe is trying to show you is love and how to get to that next level of who you are. And so, isn't that the most ultimate experience of love, the most ultimate gift that you can receive, to say, "We love you so much that we want to bring you to the next level here. This is for you, so you can get the things that you want, so that you can have the desires of your heart, that you can have the experience that you want."
I am whose I am.
That's absolutely.
Mhm.
Finish a sentence. To live well, you must blank.
To live well, you must first choose to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do we let ourselves thrive?
Woo, well, that's the work, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, it is.
We let ourselves thrive, in my opinion, by learning and allowing ourselves to let go anything other than. So anything that is requiring, don't get me wrong, life requires us to enter into survival mode sometimes.
Mhm.
However, it is also about knowing when to put it down. Like is no part of us needs to be rejected, you know.
Mhm.
So even it's just that the only issue is that we forgot how to thrive. We've only learned, a lot of us only have only really learned how to survive, and so learning how to thrive is a lot of unlearning moments that you thought survival was needed
Mhm.
when it wasn't, when it is
Mhm.
no longer needed.
Hmm.
Now you can thrive. Now you no longer have to survive this. We're carrying survival with us a little too long. And that's
Hmm.
the issue.
Absolutely. That is so deeply beautiful and raw and real. And when we carry survival with us for so long, it turns into fear. It's no longer useful. And so now it's like stuck in the body, and we're living our lives from survival mode instead of a life that we deserve, which is ease and peace and wellness. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Hmm.
I'm going to pause here.
Yeah.
Boom. I'd like to do a recap of what we talked about. Your turning point came when you were asked, who are you? And then you
I would
decided.
say that's my origin point. My turning point happened when I received a reading. She was not playing with me. There was
No.
she was there was a woman from India, okay, and she gave me a reading, and I had already been with my therapist for 7 years, and I decided I went on a walk and I felt it in my spirit. She cannot take you where you're going. And so I was like, okay, I know that my next session is going to be my last session. And I had said to a friend at the time, I was like, I wish there was a such thing as spiritual therapy because I needed somebody to hear me and listen to me when I said, my intuition said this, like, you know, and take me seriously. And so I had scheduled this reading. And she looked at those cards and she read me down and read me fulfilled and read me a situation. Of course, the situation was about a man, and
Mm.
and she told me what was going on very accurately. Like with, you know, I went into like, so I was used, and she looked at me and said, "My, how fast are we to make victims of ourselves?" And I was like,
A mic drop.
I was like, "Excuse
Right.
me."
It's like, who you talking to?
What about me? Like, what
Right.
about my feelings? My true turning point, it was like the culmination. Like, she was just like the the final teacher that I needed. Like, somebody that was just no longer playing with me. Like, no, who was calling me into the highest version of myself and saying, no, you can do better. You can do better than this. It only took about five. We probably ended up working about a month and a half. She got done in a month and a half what could not happen in 7 months. And
Hmm.
that was helping me to truly see myself and
Hmm.
see myself. And boy, was it painful. And that was
Hmm.
ultimately the true turning point for me where I was like, you know what? I'm done. Like I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to be a victim anymore. And this is how I got here. It was just all mapped out. There was no stone left unturned. I couldn't turn a blind eye. It was in front of my face, just there, plain as day. And so that is what I would say. I had been on the journey all these years, but turning that corner is what set me on fire.
Wow. That is deeply powerful. And that's what it takes. Someone, I mean, we have a very similar experience. It's like, what are you doing? You got it all twisted, baby. And it's you. You looking over, oh, no. It's right here. And it's a blessing.
Mm, it is.
It's a blessing. It hurts. It hurts so good because you're a little confused. You're like, what's going on? And they say, cut it out.
Girl,
She's like,
I'm like, I
cut it
don't know if
out.
I would say that's a good kind of hurt. It hurts, but it's a rewarding pain. But baby, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the hurting good, the good hurting. But whew, it's definitely rewarding, but it hurt. It hurt.
Hmm.
It hurt real
Hmm.
bad.
Hmm.
Mm.
What are the practices that ground you now?
Breath work, breath work, breath work, journaling. Between those two, breath work, journaling, meditation, and walking. I Girl, it was negative 17 degrees here one winter. I put on, layered up, had on my, I was like, I have to go for my walk. I
Hmm.
I have to. So I used to be one of those people that would judge. You know, we see those folks that are outside in the winter time doing their little exercises and like shorts and stuff. And like, I used to be one of those people that would judge them. And lately I heard somebody like kind of poking fun at them, like, I saw this man outside running in the snow. He had on shorts and I was like, listen, that man was doing what he had to do for his mental health. Okay.
Hmm.
It,
Hmm.
he needed that. Leave him alone. He
Hmm.
needed that. And that's how it is. So really it's breath work, journaling, meditation, walking. It's connecting with myself, going internal.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, this has been such an incredible conversation, Char. Thank you for joining me
Yeah.
today and sharing your wisdom and your energy here with us. I know that our viewers are going to absolutely love it. Y'all, I encourage you to go to House of Transformation on YouTube and TikTok to hear more of Char's wonderful insights. And again, this is how we live well. Thank you for being here.